So today what I'm going to show you is a piece done with something that has a little more flair, or I don't know if it's flair, but movement. Anyway, it's not a solid object, it has a little more space within it, and we'll show you how to go about that. So without any further delay, here we go. Okay, so again, we got to decide up front if we're going to use your paper towel with chalk on it, or whether you want to use chalk on. You can do either, right? You can do either. So, but first, as always, let me get a size on this. Depending on, yeah, about 1 2/3. Okay, I know it's going to be pretty big drawing, and so let's go about there. So if that's 1 2/3, okay, I'm looking out because it would be almost exactly the width of my, just a little bit shy of that. Yeah, yep, just a little bit shy of that. So that's my box. Now, do I need a whole box? You know, yes and no. Do you have to draw it all in? It's up to you. But what helps me is then I can measure along those edges to find sizes, right? So anyway, so there we go. Okay, so here we go. Sorry, I just started looking at something. Okay, I'm going to go from the bottom to kind of the top of that bushier area, and finding out that's just above half. In fact, I'm kind of now looking for where's half. Okay, I don't know if you remember me talking about how to find half. If you come up so far with one instrument, either from top or bottom, and half is in between those. I don't know if that made sense, but in other words, as long as you measure the same, you could even overshoot like this, make a mark, okay, and then come from the bottom down, make a mark, just right there, and then all I have to do is measure in between, okay, and that's the halfway point, and it's going to be just above half. Now center, we got those center pieces there, but they are not in the center. That's why I'm measuring that. I could easily assume they are. Now I could, nope, I'm not going to do it. I was going to say force it to be center and change some things up, but no, I'm going to stay true to what I've got here. So center puts me there now, and I'm just gonna guesstimate, because this is more about gesture. This is more about letting things become what they are. Now, on this reference here, we just again want to look for lights and darks, right? And then the energy of what's going on in there. Okay. So I kind of have that established. That little guy shooting out there. Don't know if it's that big. Oh yeah, that's another thing to measure. How about the bucket? 2. 1, 2, 3 2/3, whatever that would be. So that's why I do this. 2, 3, 2. Oh wow, that's crazy close. All right, so I kind of lucked out. So that's my bucket height right there, okay? About right there. So that can tell me how big some of these things are that are inside that bucket, right? And they're a lot smaller than I would have thought. So now, how wide's my bucket? Almost the height. Well, pretty close to the height of the bucket. So I don't know if you can see those marks. I had enough on my fingers to get those figured out. Okay. Kind of like that. Okay. So that tells me a lot of things there.
Took us to court.
Sorry.
Went to jail.
Have a thing going here in the background. Okay. Let me turn that off. Okay. Now one of my wide points is here. That's actually a anchor point. So I'm going to find that through this process here. But you can see I'm kind of going about this a little bit differently. I'm measuring out the these dark elements as I go. Okay, there's that stem. Top of that. That's not in the middle. I've got that way too much in the middle. Okay. Now, it helps me thinking like negative shapes or positive shapes or the negative shape of all the negative shapes. In other words, it creates your positive shapes if you let it. Same time here, I don't want to belabor everything. Just want to make it happen. And with plants, you know, sometimes it's really important to capture exactly what they are, but sometimes you're just looking for the gesture of it. And that's why we're working on this today. We're just trying to find a gesture of the energy of these lines, I guess you might say. Again, I think I'm drawing a lot of things too big, but I'm going to let them kind of develop as I go. And go from there. Okay. I really need to retool my towel, but I'm too lazy. Okay. So now I can start to see kind of where things are going to be. So I'm looking perhaps, you know, where does the side of this flower line up with the bucket. So that's a fairly main feature up there. I should measure how big it is. But for right now, I'm gonna go with a little bit of intuitive push. Other than, I really do kind of want to know how far down that comes. It's about as tall as the whole bucket. So if I come down, make a little mark there. So this little spastic guy is out here. And there's another flower under here. Okay. And I could put in that whole tone, I guess. think that's a couple of flowers. Okay. But if you can kind of mark where critical, marks are taking place, then you can come back to them and use those effectively. Okay. Now, kind of getting the flowers out in place. That's my wide point over here. Let my video catch up with me here. That's my wide point right there, which would be a anchor point. It's no more than 2. It's about down to there. Okay. That's spastic little flower. We'll go right there. Now, I just feel like I want to get the stem system in there a little bit. I really need to retool my towel. It's giving me fits. Okay, but again, do I have it exactly right? I don't know. But I'm getting some in there. Okay. What I don't want to do is take a whole ton of time on this. So on one hand, I want to gesture it in as accurately as possible. So I don't have to redo too much of it or polish too much of it. But at the same time, it did what it did. Oh, okay, whoops, I have too many stems there. Okay. Like I say, some things are going to be more priority fixes than others, okay? So, all right. That kind of gives me stuff to play with there. So I am going to get bold here and actually use my charcoal. Okay. And come in and be bold enough to knock some things in, because again, I don't want to over belabor this. Okay, again, I'm straightening my horizon line. So I'm gonna have some white flour over here, so I don't want to mess all that up. Over, let's jump out to here. Okay, now what this is going to do for me is establish this environment around the pot, right? That's a pretty big area, and I would want to just take my towel and rub that in, but I want it to be dark in the end. I'm pretty confident I'm not going to mess anything up if I go ahead and darken this with my fingers. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Because I didn't want the towel to take away half of the material. I wanted to get that in there, darken that up as quickly as I could. So Anyway, so use my fingers to push the material into the fibers of the paper. Okay, and that'll stain it pretty well, right? Now, you're going to see me hold off on the background a little bit. I could go back there and tone through all that. Maybe I should. But I don't have any white flowers up top. I guess I do have a few around here. We'll see if I do any toning up through the top. I should to get environment. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is go ahead and commit to some of these stems and things, okay? Now these aren't dark, but I want to do a certain level of commitment and let these work for me. I'm going to trust everything that I don't get done. I don't know, does that make any sense? To the energy and gesture of what I'm going to draw. In other words, what I know I'm not making a lot of sense. I'm trying to talk and draw at the same time. But what I'm trying to say is go for it and let things happen. And it's more important that the energy is good here and somewhat fresh. Okay. Again, when you're doing a nice long line or a nice curved line, you kind of want to think twice about just doing a big long line. You want to perhaps break it up a little. Now, some lines have a nice long existence and curve, but if you get too noodly with it, it'll come back to haunt you on how loud it is. Okay. Now I'm kind of messing with this. Whoops, and I just did a big old drag through over here. I didn't mean to do. I'll just clean that up. Okay, I gotta keep moving on this. Okay, so I've got enough established here to enjoy just the process of commitment to some places. If I start getting an echo out of 2 or 3 efforts, I'll come back in, clean that up a little bit. Okay. Want my negative shapes to still have some life. So I'm getting rid of some of that chatter between my towel drawing and my chalk drawing. Okay, I can come back in with some secondary chalk in a minute, but I want to kind of carry through. You know how we talk about doing finding your darkest darks and making sure you integrate those throughout your piece, right? And that's basically what I'm doing here, is doing some darkest darks and letting those help me establish an idea of how dark I want to go in any given place. See, over here is some nice energy and chatter. Now you got to be careful not to do too much crazy little detail, because it's going to start to scream out and have its own life. Okay, so I'm just suggesting some in there, and I'll have to do some more when I come back for each piece, each flower. Okay, now I'm going to come down in here and get a little bit bold. Okay, and clean up my echo. Whoops. Careful about dirty erasers. They'll mark your paper. Okay, I've got this leaf going here. And then over here, This reappears. Got to be a little careful because this is now my building the flower that's in between. So I got to be a little bit careful there. That's not all dark. Okay, underneath that flower, we have some that runs under here, and some that pops out over here. Man, I did the big thing, but I didn't do anything over here. So now I'm gesturing out with my charcoal into that area where I didn't have anything before. It gets a little dangerous because now I'm getting bold with chalk on where without my initial kind of paper towel draw. And don't be afraid of it though. Just go for it. Let the marks happen. And don't be afraid of not using paper towel or of just using the charcoal on. That's great. Do it. Do it. But it's a great precursor to get the charcoal drawn into place and then be able to come in more confidently with your hard chalk and claim, the shapes of the things going on. Now, again, when I go about it like this, I'm not necessarily thinking sacrificing any accuracy. It's not like I'm thinking, I'm just going to, throw the accuracy out. It's just, I'm going to take time for the most important accurate moments. What are the most important? I don't know. You decide. In other words, whatever's going to help you make this reference. Okay? Whoops. Drag that right through there. And, whoa, hold it. Oh, that is that guy. Hold it. What did I do there? Oh, that's that one. This is another one up here. And I just, like a funny guy, thought it was something else. And just totally dragged those two together where they don't come together. So I'm going to have pretty good stain there. But what's nice is when you have a high contrast of dark and light, I'll have a little stain left right there. But that's all right. I've got a nice dark leafy thing next to it. And that comes up into a flower, so I gotta be careful. And then the lighter leafy thing there. Ooh, but then it comes up. Here's this dark leafy guy. And then it has this little triangle right there. Okay, so can you see what I'm doing? I'm just amassing my general big darks, right? Just jumping in and making these things happen. Okay, now I'm going to take just a minute, and I really need to get a cleaner eraser. This is my best one. So I'm going to come in carefully. Boy, if it's really soiled, it's going to make marks. And I'm just going to pull up, and I'm trying to make random strokes when I do this, meaning I don't want to just go with the strokes I made all the time. If I'm trying to get rid of them, you want to kind of cross hatch your eraser points as well as your drawing points. Okay. Otherwise you might create lines you can't get rid of. Okay. Now if you come right in there, you can actually see my measuring lines, but that's okay. In fact, what I'm going to do, I am going to introduce some tone up in here. It's just too quiet or too static with all that white up there. Okay, because again, nothing's really white. Now on the setting I have here, you may not see that. Ooh, whoa, I just picked up a whole ton of dark, so got to be careful here. Now, keep in mind, if you're going to tone your paper, which you should, do it early on, okay? Because you're going to have to redraw some of the things that you put on there. Okay. Now, I've got some pretty good highlight in there. I'm going to adjust something on my exposure. So you can see that a little better. I can leave it right there. Okay. So yeah, I got a little carried away over here, but that's all right. We'll have some fun with it. Okay. I was watching my projection and got kind of carried away with how much chalk I was putting down there. Okay. Now, this will help me though, because now I can come in and define some negative shapes that I needed defined anyway. Now, for the sake of time, I'm going to choose some quick measuring, meaning I'm not going to worry about perfect accuracy as much as just what do I have out there? What do I want to be where? And it's just helpful to be as accurate as possible, because then you're not fighting other references as you go throughout the drawing. But at the same time, if you don't have time for it all, just do as much as you can. And believe it or not, you're going to create a lot of life in your drawings by gesture. That's one of the things we're terribly suffering from not being together, is going over energy, gesture, emphasis on, detail points and stuff like that. It's just stuff that I shouldn't say we can't cover here, but it's just really hard without being together and seeing each other draw, and seeing my demos so that you can know what I'm talking about. And so that's why I'm trying to provide these, and sorry they're so slow in coming. And yes, I'm giving myself a hand cramp trying to do all this erasing. Now again, you gotta be careful not to make lines with your eraser. So go in, you don't want to go in a series or a pattern. You want to be organic about the marks you make, because some of them may stick. And then at that point, you'll have lines that you can't get rid of. Okay, I have a little division in the plants down here. Kind of plays into that flower shape. Okay, so what it takes is going around and making a lot of these pieces come forward. Now, I should have been a little more careful on the other one and leave some of that tone in it. Like this one here, it has some dark tone in that white flower. Okay, and so let that work for you. You don't have to erase it all the way to claim the light, right? In fact, you shouldn't. I was kind of just going for it up here, whereas actually half of this flower or more is shaded. Okay, it has some shading in it. But boy, it's easy to come in here now and just reclaim some of those shading points, right? It's easy to do. I love using the edge of my finger for subtle little lines and stuff like that. Okay, I have a little cast shadow inside of here. You notice I'll pick up material from the other part of the drawing sometimes. And then we have this beautiful rolling shadow with a core shadow in it right there. Okay, so you may not be able to see this because it's so small, but there's a little core shadow here, and over here it's a hard edge cast shadow. And so what I might do is overbuild that a little bit, and then come back in and cut that off sharp, because that's a cast shadow. It has a hard edge if it's a cast shadow. And then over here it's a core shadow on a soft edge. And it even has a lot of reflective light bouncing around in here. So there's a lot of things to play with, okay? Anyway, it's just so many beautiful things to observe and find in each of these pieces, right? And so it's really one of those where if you spent an hour or two setting it up, take a break and then come back into it. Just enjoy discovering all the form that's happening on these pieces. And certain ones are more important than others. You don't need everything, but certain ones you want to capture. They're beautiful and elegant, and you want to make sure you get them. And other pieces are like, hey, whatever, you know, they're there, but not gonna sweat over every little bit, right? So anyway, can you see how it's going? And can you see how it's just the same thing over and over? Can you? Now this break through, maybe I'm making that a little big, but I want to break through that edge. I want to have something come through that edge over here, because that gives us a nice visual stop point when it transverses that line. And this little guy has some interesting stuff in him, so I'm going to draw it in. You can just draw it brutally in there. It's a little bit too loud, and so I just take my finger and push it back until it's subtle. Okay, I'm going to time myself here. 10 more minutes. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so I'm going to carve out this flower. Now, this is a lot of stuff to cover. That's another reason I'm hurrying. It's a lot of stuff. But you know what? Have fun with it. See what you can do. Okay, now I'll try to remember to send this reference to you in the description, so you can use this if you want to, for sure. Okay. This one's a little shallower and has a little stem hanging out under it. So again, I'm kind of borrowing material from the paper itself. It has a pretty tight shadow shape in there, and has this big long light area on the flower. Now, I'm running into all kinds of marks I can't get rid of. That's alright. I'd rather risk having some construction or exploration that I can't quite get rid of than to be so tidy that it has no life in it. And again, you know, it's not a portrait of a particular person's face, so it doesn't need to look just like them, okay? But it needs to look like flowers and kind of like these flowers, okay? There's little elements in there. You can just play with them back and forth. I do what I call build and destroy. Build and destroy, meaning I'll build a little area up and it gets too built, and so I'll push it back and literally just pull into it and destroy it a bit. And then if it needs to be built some more, I'll build it again. And you do this little dance until you get the right balance. And there you are. Okay, so I'm not saying I made it, but playing with that. Now, if I play with something too long, it's going to take my time away from everything else, right? So I need to keep moving. Just reshaping that petal with dark around it. So I know I want this to be nice and dark anyway, and I kind of have my edge there for my dark, so I'm going to pull it out, pull it around, and let it glide under the flower. But I want to preserve that little leaf that's under there. Okay, sticking through there. Now I could, who knows? Well, looking at my projection, things are a little wacky that way, so I'll go that way. All right, so many things to do, so little time. Okay, now where else do I have interest? Right, it's a little bit unbalanced. Got things through here, nothing up here. So take a minute and reclaim. Now I have this totally off. Some of my darks I didn't quite put in the right place, but I'm not going to change them all at this point, okay? If I didn't have time or didn't take the time to do them just right to begin with, then you got to stay with what you have built, and that's fine, okay? So I'm just going to build like that. I'd have to do a lot of erasing to pull this up where it should be. And I just don't want to do it. Well, let me see. I can pull this one up to there. Maybe I'm changing the shape just a little bit. Okay, but I need some visual interest up in there, so I'm pulling that guy up there. Now I've got a big flower out here. He kind of disappears into the edge, but there's some nice light going on. Okay, there's this flower here. Now I'm going to overbuild the lights of it. Okay. And then, well, it's pretty subtle in there anyway because there's a lot of soiled chalk in there. Now here's the one that's a little bit lighter. Big, beautiful flare here. And luckily I can reclaim that almost to white. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to quickly do a little shaping on this guy. He actually has kind of a little darker edge. Not dark, but just actually has a little bit of an edge to it, and so does this little guy. Okay, it doesn't take much to create the border of a space, right? So be careful how quickly those things get created. Okay, now we see the underneath, kind of a little shadow of these petals. These petals come out straight. Okay, and we kind of see them flare down here. Now, before you think, hey, where do I get some beautiful flowers? As you probably noticed, I don't know if you're flower experts, but these are just cheap, fake house plants that I actually cannibalized and put together in a bunch that I could kind of make sense of a composition. So there's nothing special about these flowers, okay? But what'll be special is the expression, right? The things I choose to show the viewer. Okay, and this needs to come out. Okay, I should have gone further with this guy. I'm gonna let him come out and down like that. And looks like I need to pull back. And I'm sorry if I'm doing too much talking, but I'm just kind of letting myself think out loud so you can kind of tell what I'm up to. Sorry, it's a little bit hard to follow, but I'm just looking for shapes through here. I kind of messed that one up, so I'm gonna change that one a little bit. Now edge, right? Edges. Are they sharp? Are they smooth? Are they faded? You know, what kind of edges do you have? If you look at all your edges, just take care of edges. Everywhere you go, you'll make up almost everything you need. Okay. Okay, time's going way fast, and I don't want this to last forever. Okay, I don't mind drawing forever. I just don't want this to be too long a video, and I want it to be real time so you can see the development process. Okay, and maybe that's helpful, and maybe it's just painful. I don't know. So there's that little guy in there, and now I'm going back in to cut him into shape. Okay, creating that negative shape in between. And as long as I do that contours and negative shapes just right, push too far. I'm not gonna take too much time. Okay, gotta be careful not to create a loud. Okay, I've got another little flower up here. Anyway, I don't know if I'll have time to get that guy in there. Beautiful. Let's see. Little stem. Anyway. Oh, darn. Just messed up the edge of my other flower. So I'll reclaim that a little bit. But what I wanted to do was actually reclaim some of the light in the background there and let that start helping us in our presentation. Okay, so now if you were to see this up close, you would see how marky it is and stuff like that. Now I can come through later. This is where if you had the leather chamois and a fairly clean leather chamois, you could come through all these marks in the erasure and average it out and smooth it out quite nicely. Now honestly, I feel like I'm taking away a little bit too much tone because I need that around some of my lighter features down here. Anyway, there we go. Okay, so let me do one more run through. Let's see, right here. And see where I need definition. I'm not going to worry too much about these leaves. I just don't have time to. Okay. Maybe I'll do another video of, how this finished up. Okay. This little guy comes over the lip of the container. Has some dark there. And some nice dark right next to this flower. Right, a nice dark depth. And right there into the pot. Right. And I'm just kind of throwing that out there quickly. All right, there's so much to do, but can you see it starting to come together? And over here would be a matter of just finalizing a lot of these edges that we kind of came out and roundabout before. Just looks so messy right there. But anyway, there we go. So there's some stuff going on there. And anyway. All right. So kind of looks like a mess, but that's where it goes. Now down here, I definitely have some form going on this bucket, right? And then I definitely have some light burned out of the bucket over here, meaning it's actually taking away my detail on the bucket. It's so bright. Okay, and so this is quite light right here. Now, it stays pretty light, but kind of changes up and creates a nice hard edge down here. And I need more curve on my bucket than I currently have. Okay. Okay, comes up, remember it kind of comes up slow and then curves at the end really fast. It's fairly tight, what do you call it? Elliptical exchange there. Okay, now pretty tight bucket edge. Not going to worry about too much. Got a couple of spots where the light continues on the construction of the bucket. Kind of grabs, keeps hold of that light wise. Then it doesn't take much at all. Choose some tool to come in and give that little shadow that follows under there. I've got this terribly out of place, but it's the construction that will be satisfying, okay? And that's kind of enough for now. And you just got to simply play with it, just get rid of distractions, right? In case you did something inaccurate. Okay, there's a little shadow there. It's perfect. So it gives us light against dark right there. Okay, now, how long have I gone? Okay, I'm just going to go through this up here, guys, real quick. And I can do that with my towel. I have some darks up there. But I'm going to come in with towel and eraser and just try to build a little bit of energy and likeness to, the shape that I'm seeing. Okay. That's going to be way too big up there. That stem. Okay. Use that chance to come down, cut away some of that negative space again as I make that stem smaller. Okay. In there. Okay. Now I got a few little dark spots in there. I've got to claim, so I'm going to go in dark. Try not to make lines, just trying to make a few marks and patterns of dark that make sense where they are. Okay. And we got a few up there. Okay, but we're getting close. So, and I really need to redo my towel. Okay, my towel edge. When I say redo my towel, what I'm talking about is I've used that edge so many times I've worn it out, and it's just not giving me some fine control that I want. Okay, now these flowers I'm gonna do a little faster, a little bigger. Okay, they just have some bigger form on them and structure, so I'm just gonna go with that. Just go with what they have. Okay, and this guy up here, and then that's just this leafy guy. And what I'm trying to do is push some darks into where I need some darks. Oh yeah, I need that stem. I don't even have that stem. It's terrible. But that's the way it goes. It's way broader than I wanted it to be. I'll push it back down there. Okay. So now I can just run around and play with the shapes. And this is where it's nice to have some of this atmosphere around here, because I can pull that away and let those flowers kind of emerge. Into the atmosphere, because I actually have some atmosphere to pull away and let these happen. Okay, and I'm doing some really general shaping here, not being too particular, and what I want to do is just kind of capture the gesture of the flowers and the stem, leaves, and so forth. Okay. Okay, I'll try not to grunt too much while I'm doing. Do you ever hold your breath when you're drawing? All of a sudden you realize, man, I'm not breathing. It gets pretty intense, doesn't it? Okay. So we come up here. There's just a little bit of nice little visual play between the flowers a bit. Just trying to capture that just a little. Again, some of these negative shapes I can just tell, okay, got that off. I got that off. And, you know, I didn't take time to measure certain things, but, you know, it's going to be all right. It's going to be the general expression and shaping of what I'm doing. Okay, now I got some big shapes to deal with these big flowers. Okay, so I'm making those shapes big. Okay, has a little interesting thing at the top there. So I kind of gestured it in. Okay, now just gonna take a couple seconds on each of these, because these have a lot of little chatter in them. Very directional, little spiky elements to them. So I'm just going around and not necessarily capturing every one, but I kind of want to feel which way they're going. You know, I kind of want to see how they feel. And again, kind of looking for negative shapes to help determine, you know, what kind of shape I'm going to make out of that. This one looks kind of messy. It's much airier in here, which I haven't done yet. And so I'm now pulling away a lot of that and letting that become more a little bit like it actually feels over here. I'm going to split that one. That one should be split. I could go back in, make that a little bigger, and then split it, but I don't have time. So I'm just going to split these guys a little bit and kind of make up the general feel for what's going on here. Now you can see, you just do that little bit of visual chatter there, and it starts to really scream off the paper. So be careful there. Okay, now what I'm going to do, very last thing, is just need to push a little bit of detail on some of these greens, okay? Because they have some very specific twists and turns to them, and it just helps to throw that in quickly, okay, so that it looks right, so it just has the right build feel to it, okay? And just capturing a few of those edges just really helps to define what's going on there, where things transition. Oh, I got a big old one down here that I completely ignored, but oh well. I'm not going to add it all in very specifically. Just going to let it happen there. This is a big void. Clean that up a little bit. This is also its own little space. Okay, now I'm not going to take time to clean up all my atmosphere. But anyway, so some of these things will be more important than the others, but hopefully you get the idea. And well, it's been about 50 minutes. We've been able to build that much, tell this much story, and anyway, and build enough that, you know, you could take this further and have it really turn out to be a beautiful representation of everything you're seeing. But there we go. I better stop. Okay, there's going to be 1,000 other points to do, but look how much you can get done if you just jump in there. Trust yourself. It's not perfect. It's not exactly like the reference here, but it's really, really close, okay? All right, you guys. Well, hey, it's been fun to draw again, and see ya. And hopefully you're enjoying this piece here. No, let's see, there, here. Can't point that way. No, the other way. Right there. And anyway, go at it and do your own event, or you can use this as reference, okay? And I'll put it back so you can see it. All right, guys, take care. We'll see ya. Bye-bye.